Okay.
Welcome, Divine Stewards, to our training on tax strategy. I have a phenomenal presenter for you today. She is not only fantastic in the world of accounting, but more importantly, especially for those of us that are here in this space today, more importantly, she is spirit led. And I'm going to allow her to tell her story of what she is doing that is of so great an import in our world today in the zone of serving the community as well as helping us as spirit-led stewards of the global natural healing community to be able to be more impactful by increasing our income, increasing our influence, and increasing our impact in the world today. So without further ado, I bring you Courtney.
Thank you.
Yay!
Hey guys, I'm Courtney Epps, and I have been a tax strategist for the last 19 years. I would probably be willing to say that only the last 3 years I actually knew what I was talking about because it takes time to develop an expertise in the tax world to be able to help people free up money. And that's what I love to do on a daily basis. So I'm an international speaker and an author, and I have a full service accounting firm here in Greenville, South Carolina. And so we have about 25 employees. So it is massively grown. We've grown our business about 30 times in the last 3 years. So it's been kind of crazy how everything works out. But, one of the biggest contributors, I can tell you that much, is that 2 years ago we started implementing something called a social business into our business. And what we started doing is giving from a gross income level. So our mission and our purpose is we work with 3 different nonprofits right now, and we provide safe drinking water for people in Liberia. Right now, we're actually working with a nonprofit called The Last Well, and they are doing a border to border initiative in Liberia to impact the entire country, 5.2 million people, of which 2.6 million are children. So we work alongside them, and for every $150 that comes in our accounting practice, we provide safe drinking water for a person for the next 15 years. So that's pretty, that changed everything for us. We added on, or actually, we started off with a company called Manna Relief, and we provide for every dollar that comes in our accounting practice, we provide a serving of whole food plant-based nutrition to children in need all over the world and in 90 different countries. And that changed everything. Like that was the first step. That was our first nonprofit that we started working with. And that the first month that we did that, we were at about 15,000 servings, and now we're up to over 250,000 servings a month. So dramatically increased from April 2018 to today. Has been crazy. So the other one that we give to the nonprofit is Operation Underground Railroad, and they free children from sex trafficking is what their whole purpose is. And so for every $25,000 that we bring in, we free a child from sex trafficking. So what it looks like on a daily basis here at OTB Tax is that we are finding every week about $250,000 that people did not know existed, that we're going back and getting and amending tax returns or putting in a structure to help people make sure that they're moving forward, not having to pay taxes on the money that they shouldn't be paying taxes on based upon tax code. And then on top of that, we're providing nourishment. We're feeding 8,000 children a day. We're providing safe drinking water for about 53 people every day. And then every 3 days, we're freeing a child from sex trafficking. So I was put on this earth, I can tell you that much. And it is my mission is to teach more how to have more so that they can live more and they can give more. And then I can nourish more and then I can free more children. So that's just a little bit about me. I have 6 children. We homeschool all of them. My husband and myself work in the business together. And, it's a pretty amazing life. Things have massively changed since we started focusing on giving instead of receiving. And then crazy thing is like we get more. Like the more we give now, the more we receive. It's a lot of fun. It's a different world than it was 2 years ago.
Wow, Courtney. And in our ecosystem, we've talked about what you were referring to, which is gross income giving.
Yep.
And I said that, our for-profit, quote-unquote, business, Sankofa Healing and Enrichment, we've made that same commitment to give 10% of our income regardless, before taxes, before anything else. And as you said, as soon as I made that decision, I started enrolling more people into our programs. You know, it's just the beauty of opening the channels, and allowing God to use us fully. You know, so I greatly appreciate what you're doing. Those of us who are on this call, interestingly enough, I think the majority of us have for-profit businesses, and some of us have for-profit businesses and non-for-profit organizations. So one of the things that I would love for you to speak into at this point is that, and then there's some people who haven't yet gone into identifying their adventures, let's put it that way, in a formal business structure. So one of the things that I found interesting on your website is that you said that you would have to be brain dead not to own a business if you are a philanthropist, a speaker, or an entrepreneur. Can you speak a little bit more into that?
So there are two tax systems in our country, and I want to step back first before I even go into that and help you understand that the way that we're giving, guys, creates what's called a cost of goods sold item. So instead of giving from a gross income, or instead of giving from a net income level like most of the population does, and 96% of Americans get no benefit from giving to any sort of charitable contribution because of the standard deduction. So we have the standard deduction, which is $24,000, and if you go above that, then you can get benefit. But regardless if you go above it or not, you're still missing out on $24,000 in deductions that you should have been entitled to. And the way to get access to 100% charitable contributions and be able to write that off as a business expense is you give from a gross income level. And by doing so, now you have 100% tax deduction that is no longer a charitable contribution. It is now a cost of goods sold item because you have connected it to your top line. You've connected it to a product, to a service, to $1 or $100 or $10,000. And because of that, you now can take that as a business deduction. And why that's important, again, 96% of Americans get no benefit from charitable contributions. So that's one of the first things that goes away when the economy starts getting tight. You know, it's expected that 150 million extra people are going to die this year because of the situation with COVID and what it's done to shut down our economy. And the way to fix that problem is we teach other business owners and the donor base that you already have as far as nonprofits how to give that way. And then one, they're going to save more money in taxes, then they're going to have more money to give. So it just makes sense in order to do that. So that has to be a part of your model. And if you do that, just kind of like Tom's Shoes or Warby Parker, like for every, they're doing a buy one, give one on shoes with Tom's Shoes. They're doing a buy one, give one on glasses with Warby Parker. We're doing it for every dollar we bring in. We're providing a serving of whole food, plant-based nutrition. So you can do it however you want. It just forces it to become a tax deduction, which is a huge deal. Now, the second thing I want to share with you is understanding the two tax systems in our country, because Courtney, so many people, yep.
Can you say that part one more time about, I missed it. Could you say that part again where you said, how the tax deduction works? You said for every dollar, okay, can you start there? I just missed that part.
So it will make sense if I share. So if I sell these Fiji water bottles, right? And for every Fiji water bottle that I sell, I'm going to give something.
Okay.
It could be that I provide a serving of food. It could be that I, towards freeing children. It could be whatever you want it to be. If I sell a pen, every time I sell a pen, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So that becomes your model. Or it could be for every dollar. So you don't have to necessarily track it by how many products you're selling, right? Or how many services. It could be for every client. For every client we're going to do this, okay? So once that becomes your business model, then you would then treat the charitable contributions not as charitable contributions, which what happens, so many people believe, well, I'm giving through my business, so I'm getting a tax deduction. You're not. What happens is the money flows. We have to list it on your tax return as charitable contributions, but it flows back to your personal tax return. And because of that, it flows back to your Schedule A itemized deduction. And most people aren't getting any benefit. Like they think they are, but they're not.
Okay.
And so in order to get 100% benefit, the goal is to push everything off of what I consider living expenses, and what's sitting on a personal tax return is to push that off to a business expense. And the way to do that is you just give from a gross income level and you make it a part of your business model. So when I share with people what I'm doing, I'm telling them, like, for every dollar we're doing this, for every $150 we're doing this. And so they know that model. So it also becomes part of your advertising and marketing. And I'll tell you this, you guys have nonprofits. You can tell me all day long I'm giving money, unless you can bring it back to a person or what I'm actually impacting, I can't comprehend it. And so I will give and give and give and give, but I need to understand what impact are my dollars having? How many people is that particular impacting? And so when you're able to bring that into a dollar figure, then I know for $1,200, I can free a child. I know for $4.58, I can provide safe drinking water for a person for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And for $2, I can provide whole food plant-based nutrition to a child in need for 28 days. Okay. So when I have those numbers and I'm equipped with that, then I can figure out how I want to give. And so in essence, we give 16% off the top of every dollar that we make. Okay. And because we do that, we have massive tax deductions, but it massively is growing our business all in the same process. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, it makes sense. So because the amount is higher than it normally would be for a charitable deduction, or is it because of where you're actually putting it?
It's because you're giving from a gross income and not after your expenses.
Okay.
You give from the top line.
Okay, because you're giving it right away.
Yep.
Right. Okay, that's what I just wanted to understand.
And it's also because you're putting it as a different line item. Like when you're setting up your accounting books, this now becomes, as you said, a cost of goods sold.
Yes.
So just like, oh, I had to pay for the labeling, that's coming off of the top because that's a per item issue, as opposed to something that's after you paid your electric bill and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And you might give, that's the thing, is like, you might give this much, so it has to come off of gross. And if you do that, like, it could be 1% of gross as opposed to 10% of net. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is structure it and make sure that you're giving from that gross income level, and then make that your model and consistently do that. And then that will become a tax deduction for you. So huge deal. So does that help?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I got that because I hadn't heard it I hadn't heard that before. So.
I think that also helps us in terms of doing the fundraising, because mm-hmm. now what we do is we say to people that using this particular type of giving model, they're now going to be able to use that as a 100% deduction from their taxes, as opposed to some kind of fractional amount, which everybody's trying to figure out.
Right. And the whole purpose is, at the end of the day, honestly, because I put 17 people together, 13 business owners and 4 nonprofits together in Salt Lake City, Utah, about 6 weeks ago. And the whole purpose is to teach them the same mindset. So if I take business owners, okay, so if I take a handful of business owners and their focus is making money, and I take for-profits, which their focus is their mission, but they typically have to focus on making money or bringing in money in order to focus on their mission. So it has to be a secondary thing until there's enough money to put in place. So if you connect a for-profit with a nonprofit, and the for-profit can focus on the purpose, right? Which is what I focus on every day. How many kids am I feeding? How many children am I freeing? How many people am I providing safe drinking water for? When that is my focus every single day of my life, and it's not about money anymore, I'll make more money. And when the nonprofits can focus on their mission instead of focusing on collecting money, then they'll make even more money. And so when you understand, it's like you bring the two together, like you take the for-profit, they're good at making money. The nonprofit's good at changing the world. You connect the two together and neither one of them have to focus on money. It fixes all kinds of problems. Wow. And you can change the world so much faster. And so I'm really committed to doing that and getting, thousands of business owners to do exactly that. Do I want people to give to my nonprofits? Yes. Are there hundreds of thousands of other nonprofits in the world that need support and need help? Yes. And so I'm willing to share this with anybody just because I feel like we can truly change the world at a much faster scale. Because let's face it, like children are dying, like there's probably 100 children that died since we got on this conversation. Like we don't have time. And, when people understand that, they get in a hurry. And as a business owner, I know that every 6 seconds a child dies of malnutrition. I know that every 30 seconds a child goes into sex trafficking. And I know that 100 people a day are dying right now in Liberia because they don't have fresh water. And so those things are ingrained in my mind, and that's what I focus on every day. And what I do is I take what I'm really, really good at, which is freeing up money, and I force that to help me change the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's true. And Tony Robbins said the same thing. He said once he started giving more, that's when his income grew.
Yes.
So you're absolutely right.
We've gone from $15,000 a month to $250,000 plus a month in 2 years.
Wow. Look at Dr. Gamble smiling.
That's what we're talking about, guys.
That's right. That's right.
What we're talking about.
And the thing is you don't do that in an accounting practice. Most accountants grow at 10, 15% a year. We're growing 10 times a year. And that's because I implemented what I learned from Tony Robbins. My business, we were making $7,500 a month last month, 3 years ago. And now we're at, we hit $270,000 a month, the month of March. So in 29 months, 30 months, like it's just crazy to even fathom, the fact that the mindset and giving can truly change everything for you. So the one of the key things is most people don't understand that is that there's two tax systems in our country. There's one that was created to steal wealth away, and that is the W-2 employee tax system. And most people believe like there's a tax system for the poor and there's one for the rich. No, the poor seriously are now middle class, right?
That's right.
You've got this whole industry that's happening, and what's happening is people are getting further and further in debt, and they don't realize why. And the reason why is that 40% of every dollar that a W-2 employee makes minimum is going to pay taxes of some sort. And so they will spend more in their lifetime on taxes than food, clothing, housing, and transportation combined. Okay? So 46% of Americans don't have an extra $400 to their name, and that was before the pandemic. 69% don't have an extra $1,000 to their name before the pandemic. The system is broken. So that's the system that the majority of Americans are stuck in. So the second tax system is created for business owners. So that was created to provide wealth. And so what that tax system does is that allows us, so as business owners, we're going out and generating an economy. We're making money, we're making money, we're making money. And then we're also spending money on our business. So we're growing. But then the biggest part is that, Congress gives us massive tax breaks because we're hiring people. So we're taking people off of unemployment, off of food stamps, off of, all the government assistance that they have because we're hiring them to work for us. And because of that, we get massive tax benefits, and someone pays the taxes, and the lion's share goes off to the W-2 employee in order to pay those taxes. Now, here's the kicker. I'll explain this really quickly because this is kind of what shifted me from being a fractional CFO to going out and sharing tax strategy 2 years ago. And it was that the average household in America made $60,000 a year. They paid $14,000 in taxes. Their take home is $46,000 a year, and the cost of living in America is $53,000. And so that means that the average household is going in debt $7,000 a year to work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year to take 2 weeks paid vacation. And fortunately, I lost my business 10 years ago, and the guy I sold it to stopped paying me after 4 months. I was $250,000 in debt. I could not afford to file a Chapter 11 bankruptcy. I had to voluntarily withdraw that. And my parents got me involved in a network marketing business. And I realized at that time, the first time in my life, I realized the benefits of being a business owner. See, I've been a business owner since I was 19 years old. So I didn't understand and comprehend that W-2 employees paid a lot more in taxes. And I didn't even think about the fact that they didn't get any tax advantages. They didn't get to write off any expenses. And so when I got involved in this company, I ended up saving someone $4,100 in that network marketing business, more than they'd ever gotten back before. The husband was an engineer, the wife was a nurse. And so they were not very successful in the company, but because they were in this home-based business, I was able to save them $4,100 more than they'd ever gotten back. And when I did that, they ended up actually utilizing the product for the first time ever, and then taking that to another level and hit the first rank in the company. And that was just a big eye-opener for me, because I was taking for granted the fact that I was a business owner and I had all these tax deductions and I wasn't paying taxes. And I still don't pay taxes. I mean, it's been 19 years now. And so I didn't realize that the rest of the world didn't know what was going on. So I ended up, through my network marketing career, and I'm not in network marketing at all anymore. I'm a huge advocate for that industry because of it freeing up money for people, because people need money. I mean, let's just face it. But because of that, I ended up doing 900 tax returns and seeing that I could save someone on average of $4,000 to $7,000 a year. And so when I heard those statistics by Grant Cardone 2 years ago, and I'd taken my experience that it'd been, over a year since I'd even been involved in network marketing at the time, because I've been growing my business, I realized that I could truly impact and change the world. I hadn't written a book at that point. I wasn't a speaker. I just had this idea that this was my way. Like, as an accountant with a network marketing background, I could share with people how they could free up $4,000 to $7,000 a year, and that could change the world. And that was my thought process. And I wrote a book 3 weeks after Business Mastery, which was around the same time I heard those statistics. And the first person I ever spoke for was Les Brown. And the only reason I spoke for him was thank you. That was last January, 2019. And the only reason I ended up speaking for him is that I saved a friend of his, the childhood friend, $57,000 in taxes. And so because—
You might need to look at mine.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because I did that, he got me, because I told him, I said, I just love, I knew Les had moved to Atlanta, and I said, I just love to meet him. Like, one day maybe you could introduce me to him. And he called him one day, and I told Les those statistics, and I told him what was happening in the world. And he said, I need you to share this on a live. And I did a live with him in January. It took me like 3 months to finally get this live happening, right? And we did this live in January. And the next week he said, I need you to be at UCLA, and I need you to speak, and I need you to teach this information. So that launched my whole entire, he wasn't the only one, but I've spoken on stage with Eric Thomas, Rachel Hollis, Les Brown. I've spoken for Tony Robbins numerous times, Eric Worre. So, Harvey McKay, I've spoken alongside him, Lou Holtz, and Grant Cardone. So, it's just everything in my life that I said I was going to do. And literally 1 year happened. It happened at about 11 months.
Wow. I'm sorry. So was that all when you decided to do that, or was that all like a build up after you made that change, or is that?
So I'll tell you pretty easily. May 2017, I gave up on life. Like, I was done. I stopped building my accounting practice, and I stopped building the network marketing company I was in. I was living in a house that was infested with mold, and I didn't realize I was losing my memory, and it was causing me some massive depression. And one of our sons was going through some major issues. He was actually molested by his biological mother.
Oh,
And
Oh my God.
it led me to a place where I had to deal with the fact that I'd been molested when I was 11, and it was 24 years later, and I couldn't handle it. And I shut down for about 6 weeks. I did nothing. Like I told my husband, you need to go get a job. I'm doing nothing. I'm going to spend my time with my 6 children, and that's what I'm going to do. And I showed up on June 30th, 2017 to a Tony Robbins event. And I didn't know how in the world we were going to pay our rent. Like we were living in a house that was $2,400 a month. And the next month we wouldn't have had that much money.
wow.
I was in a really bad place. And I realized through 4 hours of sitting in a Tony Robbins event that I had massive limiting beliefs and I need to get over it. I was self-sabotaging myself. I was undervaluing myself. So I was getting the wrong clients. And then on top of that, I was allowing myself, I was choosing to be miserable and depressed. And so I got up off my ass, is about the best way I can tell you. And the next day I got $6,500 a month in accounting clients. I did not have any residual monthly clients.
Mm-hmm.
Before I made $19,000 the year before from June 30th to December 31st. So that would not have kept us in the house that we were living in. And I didn't really care at that point. So I went to that event, and 3 months later, I ended up actually losing my entire memory. I lost my memory for 6.5 months due to mold. And we had to move out of the house that we lived in. It was infested with mold. It was condemned. And we lived in a hotel for 45 days and with our 6 children. And so that was October 2017. And fast forward, I went to a Tony Robbins event. I went to Business Mastery August 2018. And we were at that point making about $35,000 a
Hey,
month.
did you say?
August, yep, August 2018.
Oh my gosh.
We were doing at that point,
Was
you know,
there the 24th?
memory, right? So I
Was
lost
there
my memory
the
for a
24th?
while.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry.
I lost my memory for a while, but luckily, when I'd gone to the event the year before, I didn't have any employees at the time. Tony, one of the things Tony said is that you've got to find people who can do the things that you don't want to do. And one of my greatest fears is that something would happen to me and I wouldn't be able to generate income. So I hired an employee. She kind of kept everything going until I could get my memory back and work with my clients. And obviously I'd save so much money for my clients that they didn't leave, and they understood, and they helped me through it. And so August, 2018, we're doing $35,000 a month. 3 weeks later, after Business Mastery, I wrote a book. And then I committed. I decided that I was going to be an international speaker and best-selling author. And January, my book was published, and I spoke for Les Brown at the end of January. That kind of launched me as a person, like that I could do it, like that I could do anything, that I wanted to do. And then everything just kind of skyrocketed. When I went to Business Mastery, I committed to being a platinum partner. Although I couldn't afford to be a platinum partner, I made the decision that I was going to do it. And I picked up the phone and called a handful of my clients and said, look, like, I need you to front me the money, to front me like monthly payments, if you will, because I'm going to utilize all this information and I'm going to come back and I'm going to share it with you, and it's going to grow all of our businesses at the same time. And so I had the down payment, and then I ended up hitting, becoming a plat in January of 2019. And then the rest is history. Like, it changed everything in my entire life. And, it was all about, like, I had to focus on ways to make residual streams of income because I didn't have the extra money at the time to be a platinum partner. And I'm like, well, I definitely can't do it with accounting. Like, I need to have these extra income streams. So I created a membership. I wrote a book. Now I've written my second book. It just, it will launch next week. It will be available on ebook, and then we will have the pub date is August 25th. So it's been kind of crazy, but we've been able to provide for 2.4 million servings of food to children in need in the last 2 years. And I just looked it up today. We've freed 37 children from sex trafficking since February 29th, since we started that. And we provided for, I think it's 8 villages right now, of 500 people each, since we started that initiative in March.
So now, Courtney, can you tell us a little, you mentioned something about a CFO, and also I think a fractional CFO. Can you
Right.
tell us what that is and why we should consider getting someone like that to be part of our team?
So the biggest thing and understanding is that, and it's all in my book, and I actually put a download for you guys of my book. Chapter 12 is the story of social business and how it all works. So it's actually the story of Manor Relief, Sam Castor from Manor Relief, and what he's done, and that's where I got the idea of doing social business. The other chapter that is very beneficial, and you just asked me to talk about. I wanted to give you the chapter because yeah, I'm giving you a free download there, but I want you to know what chapter it is, and it's chapter 4. So having a clear vision of your business and why a fractional CFO is crucial. What I've learned over the years is that business owners tend to make stupid mistakes. I was one of those people, and a fractional CFO helps you take what I call the road less stupid. So you make less stupid decisions, which in turn keeps more of your money, and you don't make those decisions. But that was kind of my thought process and why I became a fractional CFO, because it was like I already failed. Like I failed. I made a wrong decision. I lost my business. I can teach people how not to do those things. But here's the problem in business. You typically have a bookkeeper, and that bookkeeper is a W-2 employee. And she in no way comprehends or understands, or he understands tax code. The problem with that is that when it goes to a tax preparer, the tax preparer is not responsible for the bookkeeping, and the bookkeeper is not responsible for your taxes. So neither one of them are responsible for either one. And so at the end of the day, people are always overpaying in taxes because the tax preparer is not reviewing your books to see if they're right or correct or trying to find you money. They're just doing your tax return. They're taking your profit and loss statement and your balance sheet and saying, here you go, here's your tax return based upon the information you provided. And so now you're overpaying in taxes, and your books are all messed up because there's lots of expenses that don't end up hitting the P&L because your bookkeeper has no understanding or comprehension that it's supposed to hit the P&L. The next thing is that you have typically a payroll company. So you've got this payroll company and you're processing payroll for yourself, and you're typically overpaying yourself in a paycheck, which is what I see on a daily basis, that people are, the tax preparer, the bookkeeper, the payroll company, none of those are communicating together, and that's causing you to overpay then in payroll taxes. And then you have a consultant, you have a coach, somebody that comes in and they're reviewing all the bookkeeping that's wrong, and they're reviewing the tax return that's wrong because the information from the books are wrong. And then at the end of the day, they're providing advice based upon incorrect information, garbage in, garbage out. So a fractional CFO, what they do is they're the ones that says, okay, this information is correct and based upon this information. So they're actually going backwards and saying, okay, one, at the end of the day, are we making sure we're tracking all the expenses so we're taking advantage of all the tax deductions? Are we making sure that we are keeping up with what our profit margin is? How much are we spending in these costs, and what is the percentage that we're giving up for things like advertising, and how much is that actually making us in the long run? So that's what I see as a fractional CFO. Now, the other aspect is the tax strategy. The one thing I will tell you, it's very hard to find someone that knows taxes as well as running a business. And I haven't taken on a new client since October of last year, only because I've been committed to creating such a foundation to help people understand and comprehend tax strategy, because that is the crucial piece. First and foremost, you've got to have money in order to free up, in order to hire people to work for you, in order to hire that coach or to buy the software that you need. And then once you can do that, then the sky's the limit. And so, what I'll tell you, like with what we do in our accounting practice now, it's more along the lines of, you book a tax strategy session with us, and most of you would probably get me as the tax strategist, and I'm telling you what you should do. And so in that, you're going to get some CFO stuff, but if you don't have a good set of books and you don't have someone who actually knows what they're doing, it's going to cost you at the end of the day. It's going to cost you your business, or it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars in overpaid taxes.
So Courtney, can someone come to you at the very beginning and say, you know what, I need to just learn how to set my books up correctly, as opposed to having it all crappy and then having to undo it and redo it?
Yeah, and we would much rather that happen. You know, at the end of the day, we don't make a lot of money off of bookkeeping. Now, granted, we because we do bookkeeping, we make a lot of money. I guess if that makes sense. Because we're doing the bookkeeping or we're finding money that people did not know existed, then they're staying with us as a client and then they're referring people to us. So it all works out. But yes, we can help do QuickBooks setup and training. You can take it and run with it from there. We typically charge $150 an hour to do that. It takes a couple hours and you're set up and you know exactly what you need to do. And then if you have questions, you can always call our office back. Or we offer full bookkeeping service. So we do bookkeeping, we do payroll, we set up LLCs for people, we do S Corp elections, which is the other thing that people overpay on. They're not structured properly. So if you are a business owner and you are making more than $1,000 a month in gross income, without a shadow of a doubt, you need to immediately get an LLC. That needs to be the first thing that you do. And I would say that that needs to be the first thing you do before you even open up a company and start making money. But most people don't go down that route. But as soon as you start making at least $1,000 a month in gross income, you need an LLC. That LLC limits your liability, but it allows you to treat your business as either an LLC treated as an S corporation or a sole proprietorship. So you can file it on your personal tax return like most of Americans do, and they overpay in taxes, or you can file it as an S Corp election. And what that will do is allow you to bypass 80% of the self-employment taxes you would have paid had you just been a sole proprietor.
So that's the distinction between an LLC and an S Corp?
So, right. So an LLC just limits your liability. And then you have an S Corp. So you can actually have one completely separate from the other. It's cheaper to have an LLC that you then treat for tax purposes only as an S corporation. So if I made $50,000 as an LLC or a sole proprietor or a partnership, I would then pay federal and state taxes plus FICA taxes, or what we can say is actually called self-employment taxes of 15.3%. So 50,000 times 15.3%, you're going to get hit with $7,500 in self-employment taxes, plus you've got to pay federal and state. If you have an LLC that is treated as an S corporation for tax purposes, or you have an S corporation, which costs several $1,000s to set up, like it's $500 to have an LLC treated as an S corp. That's a one-time thing. The same 50,000, you would then pay yourself a paycheck of 20% of the 50,000, which is $10,000, and that's the only amount of money that you've got to pay self-employment taxes on. So 10,000 times 15.3% is 1,500. So in essence, you're either going to pay 7,500 or 1,500, one or the other.
So now, if we want to have a tax strategy session with you, number one, how do we do that? And number two, how do we prepare ourselves to be able to maximize the session or optimize the session?
So I just posted in the chat a booking link to book a tax strategy session. They're $99, pretty, inexpensive, but it is 30 minutes. So you will upload your tax documents. If you have QuickBooks Online, you'll upload. You can invite us to QuickBooks so we can review your books. If we don't, and we have a conversation, it's like, okay, well, I'm missing this, and this. We'll just book a follow-up, and you'll upload the things that we need. But obviously, corporate tax return if you have one, personal tax return, and then access to any P&L or balance sheet, or at least giving us access to your QuickBooks if you have that as well is super beneficial. So my staff will reach out, but you'll also get an email that tells you, hey, just upload your tax documents here to ensure that we are maximizing that tax strategy session. And what we're looking at is we are looking in the past to see, are there any missed deductions that we could have taken? If you had an LLC, and this is why I say once you make $1,000 a month in gross income, have an LLC, that's when the clock starts ticking. So if you had an LLC in the past and did not treat that LLC as an S corporation for tax purposes, we can actually go backwards if it would be beneficial for you and amend those tax returns and treat the LLC as an S corp. And we've done that. Like one year we saved someone $24,000 in taxes on that one thing. That's all we fixed. You know, it was just the self-employment taxes that they overpaid. So once you get to a point where you're making $1,000 a month in net income, you definitely want to have an S corp election.
So now we already have an S corp,
Yep.
but what I would need assistance on, not only just the strategy, but also to figure out how to optimize the setup of our accounting structure in QuickBooks. So that would be a per hour charge.
Yeah, so typically we would charge, like I will review it and I'll tell you what's wrong with it. And then we're going to give you we're typically going to give you just a price. Like this is how much we're going to do to fix it.
Okay.
And if you want us to train you, we typically charge hourly because that's all we're going to get as far as the hourly goes. But, you know, we do offer, you know, if you want us to review it on a quarterly basis, we could definitely do that. If you wanted us to take over the bookkeeping, we can do that as well. And I'll give you those scenarios when we do that tax strategy session. The other third part of this session is to make sure that you're not overpaying yourself in a paycheck. So that's the last thing we typically see. I had a client that overpaid themselves $250,000 in tax in a paycheck based upon what her accountant told her to do. And it cost her $37,000 in 1 year. We went back and amended those tax returns and got her that money back.
Now, can
Courtney,
you tell us about the membership program that you have? And
Yep.
Donna, what was your question?
I was going to ask her, you mentioned that once you have your LLC in place, you said it starts there. If you start your LLC in the middle of the year, are you able to take advantage of all of the tax breaks that it affords you within that year, or it starts at the day that the LLC is created?
So in order to take tax breaks, like you don't need a structure. You could just have a sole proprietorship. So you get to take advantage of all the deductions. The only difference is having that S corp election. So if you decided to get an LLC today, and let's say you're making $5,000 a month, right? You would be able to use that LLC. You would then treat it as an S corporation effective today. So you'd have a corporate tax return for the last 4 months of the year, and then you would have a personal tax return for the rest of, you'd have a Schedule C for January through August. So we definitely want to make sure that it's always beneficial and we put that in place. But, you know, obviously if you had, let's say $5,000 a month in income and you had $2,500 a month in deductions from that, 2,500 times 4 is $10,000. And so we wouldn't necessarily want to go the route of having an S corp election for this year, but we definitely want to put it in place January 1st of next year. And the reason why is $12,000 a year is kind of the price point where it becomes beneficial to have an LLC in place. It becomes the same price. So the taxes that you would pay on a Schedule C are about $1,800. And the amount of money that you would pay to have an S corp election is about $1,800 in legal and professional fees. But the thing is the $1,800 is tax deductible for legal and professional, but the taxes are not. So now you have another tax deduction that you can take advantage of for this year instead of paying taxes and not being able to take advantage of any deductions on that. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Thank
Now,
you.
can you tell us about the membership program that you mentioned?
So the membership is $39.95 a month. It is very inexpensive. It is a library of all of these tax strategy sessions that I've done, interviews that I've done, Q&As that I've answered, and a library of about 50 or 60 hours of content, just teaching people the information that I'm sharing, like what type of structure do you need. How do you hire your kids? How do how do you write off your travel? How do you take advantage of business use of your home? So it goes into detail on all of the information that I'm sharing with you. And it comes with a weekly Q&A that I do. It's unlimited $49 tax strategy sessions instead of 99. And it also includes a software that will allow you to pull in your bank statements, your credit card statements. It will recognize when you're driving down the road, so it'll put in your to and from location. So all you have to do is say whether it's personal or business. The transactions, the only thing you have to do is say whether it's, if it's business or personal, and then break down what that business expense is. So it's truly a process for you to have the strategy that you need, as well as the software that you need in order to make sure that you're compliant.
And that itself is tax deductible.
It is. Yes, it is. Definitely. So
I have a question about state tax laws. They
Yeah.
do change from state to state.
Yeah.
Are you able to practice in every state?
we have clients in every state, and although the tax laws change, everything piggybacks off the federal. So the tax software actually generates based upon everything that you need to input. So it's not like I have to know every single law in every single state. If you know the federal, it forces the state tax return, just so you're aware.
And can you upload the data from that into QuickBooks?
From the tax return?
No, from the tax software.
No, not into Quick. So, but we match it up. So, yeah, I mean, they're two completely separate. You've got tax software and you've got QuickBooks, two completely different systems. They don't communicate with each other, but we create the journal entries for the tax software to give you the information that you give you a P&L and a balance sheet that matches the tax return, I guess is what I'm saying. So if you're using QuickBooks, you do not want to use QuickBooks Self-Employed. That is a big no-no. QuickBooks Online would be the only one that I would use in your guys' situation. Like QuickBooks Self-Employed is horrible, is a horrible software.
Okay. All righty, guys. Any other questions? Well, I know Courtney has shared phenomenal information. She also shared in the chat some links to certain wonderful resources. I'm going to make sure that I copy those links, and this video along with all of the links are going to be available in our Steward Training Resource Center. So don't worry about it. It's going to be there.
Yes, and I'll send you an email as well of a deduction spreadsheet, just different deductions that you're welcome, that you guys can use. You don't have to use us as an accountant if you don't want to, but I'll send you that deduction spreadsheet so you have access to deductions that you're entitled to take for having a business. So I'll send that to you right now, and you can add that as well.
And Courtney, do you mind sending your contact information if we do want to use you and schedule an appointment?
Here, like I said, I'm going to definitely put all of that information in, and I think she had put some into the chat, and she said that she was going to share her book. I already ordered the paperback copy because I can't do a whole lot of screen stuff. It drives me crazy. And you can order her paperback right off of her website. I'm also going to put in her website, which has some wonderful videos.
Yep, and there's also YouTube. OTB Tax is my YouTube channel. Yeah, the only way to get through to me is to book on this tax strategy link. So that will get you my staff. It just makes it simpler. You pick what time works for you. It's based on my calendar, and you click on a time and type in the information. So we know what industry you're in. We know what you're looking for, so we can help you much quicker. And then they will reach out and send you an account called Lisio, which is where you upload all of your tax documents, and they'll walk you through every step of the way. So if you have issues, you can call the office. You'll have their contact information directly on this link as well, and they can help you if you have any issues uploading documents. You'll send those documents. When we have a conversation, I'll review all those documents, tell you what you should have done, tell you what you should do moving forward. I'll tell you what we would charge if you wanted to work with us, But at the end of the day, it's literally it is a strategy session. It's what you should do. It's not what we can do for you, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And Courtney, are you able to do that also with non-for-profit organizations, 501c3s and things of that nature?
Yes, yes. So I'm sending you this deduction spreadsheet. I'm also sending you the links again, so you'll have them in one place. And then if I can help you further, you just let me know.
Okay. So guys, what I'm going to do, the information that Courtney is sending me, I'm going to forward it on to all of you. And I'm also going to put the video and that sheet into our resource center. So if you go to ittakesAvillageministry.org, and now we have a members only segment of the page where we're going to put all of our training sessions and things of that nature in there so that you guys can access it readily in one place.
Awesome. All right, guys, I enjoyed this so much. I appreciate y'all. I've got to go do another live now.
Yay. Thank you so much, Courtney. We love you. Mwah.
Thank you so much. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Courtney.
You're welcome.
You're
And
my
there are other folks
hero.
that haven't been seen, but they're hiding in the background trying to be stealth mode. But anyway,
That's all right. Bye, guys.
bye, Courtney. So anyone has any other questions for tonight? Like I said, this was our first training session. I thank you guys who are joining us live. And like I said, we're going to have a recording. We're going to have another training session coming up next month, which is going to be with Julie Hewitt. And she's going to talk about creative funding for your projects, your non-for-profits, and your church organizations and all that kind of good stuff. Okay. And if you guys have any ideas of other trainings that you would like to see me get for us, just let me know. Or if you have people that you think can bring, and if it's you, that you think you can do a workshop that can benefit our group, please let me know and we'll get that scheduled. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, Donna, you've got to see the beginning of this video. John,
I
tell you.
I'm so mad that I got late. I had a closing that started at 1 o'clock and I'm just getting home.
What?
Yes.
What, they were closing the Taj Mahal?
You know?
Jesus.
Oh my God.
Well, we
Yeah.
have it recorded, so don't worry about it.
I wanted to see